Dexter isn't really primarily concerned about showing his wife or people knowing what he does, but he's primarily interested in hiding who he is. He sees it as an identity issue. And this is just very clear. A couple quotes from the show. So he's got this inner monologue that goes on. So we get to hear the thoughts of Dexter throughout the show. Born in blood, both of us. Harry was right. I thought I could change what I am. Keep my family safe. But it doesn't matter what I do, what I choose. I'm what's wrong. This is fate. It's an identity issue. He looks at himself and he realizes that he's a monster. My dark passenger, that's the word that he uses to describe the inner urges that he has to kill people. The inner urges for his thing that he's dealing with. My dark passenger is like a trapped coal miner, always tapping, always letting me know it's in there, still alive. In another episode, I can do it. I can manage all these moving parts. The show is in no way glorifying what Dexter is doing. At least not when we're looking at the monologues and when we're looking at what actual thoughts Dexter is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. The writers clearly know that what's at stake here is that at the end of the day, Dexter is not some type of unique individual. Dexter is just like you and just like me. We could say the exact same things as he does. We all have dark passengers that are constantly tapping at us. We all try to juggle and manage it all in our lives. And when you're watching the show, you're not watching it because you necessarily want to do the things that Dexter does. I don't think very many people are watching it for that reason. But instead, they're watching it because they relate to Dexter. We relate to him. And so there's only one way that we can kind of describe what's going on here, especially in the types of shows that kind of mirror what's going on with Dexter, is that part of what this secret is that's being hidden is that within you, you're really a monster. And this is really revealed at the end of Breaking Bad 2 in the final season, that what Walter White has become because of his choices is he's just a tragic, miserable monster loser at the end of it all. And death is just simply a release for him. So, now what's the reason behind this all? There's this interesting French comic book that I saw called The Killer, and it's about a serial killer that goes about doing hits and whatnot. And this is a couple pages from it. So this is the thoughts of this hitman. He says, Milgram's experiment showed it, proved it. Give 10 randomly chosen guys a gun, and they will torture and kill as long as they're not held responsible and remain safe. That's the story of the 101st German Reserve Police Battalion. Regular men, ordinary guys with a job and a family. No Nazis, no fanatics from all backgrounds. The Wehrmacht called in 500 of them in 1942. They were sent out to the Polish backcountry. In 16 months, they killed 38,000 Jews in cold blood, a bullet in the head, men, women, children, old folks. They sent 45,000 more to the camps. For what? You know what else? They could have turned it down. With nothing to fear, they could have refused. The capper is that even today, those guys are still around cashing in pensions from the German state as veterans, even as war victims, ain't it rich? And so what's the point of this? Why is he talking about all of these things? What's he trying to demonstrate? This has nothing to do with the plot. This is just him thinking. What's going on here? What's he discussing? What's he trying to tell you? Yeah, right? Everyone's capable of this. Everyone has this kind of evil within them that makes them capable of these things. Everyone's corrupted. And so this is a hitman saying it. Why is a hitman saying it? Why would this be coming from a hitman instead of a pastor in a pulpit? I'm no different from you. He's justifying who he is. He's saying, you think I'm bad? Anyone would do it. You would all do it if you had the opportunity. If you could kill and no one would know and you would get away with it, you would all want that kind of power. Maybe not in the specific situations, but you all have your soft spot. You all have that thing that you could give into very easily if you knew no one would know about it. I have no problem with what I do. If you really think about it, we're all murderers, one way or the other. Any life, whatever it is, requires a kind of permanent violence to take its place in the world. It can only blossom at the expense of other living things. There's no way around it. I'm not going to tell you about vegetarians and leather shoes or leather jackets, or about third world children who work like slaves so our kids can show off in school, or about the weapons we spread all over the world that we give to small-time dictators. Hey, I'd love to, but the list would be too long. Who doesn't have a slaughter on their conscience? The Germans with the Jews in the Holocaust, the Turks with the Armenians, the Spanish with the Aztecs and the Mayas, the Americans with the Native Americans, the Chinese with the Tibetans, the Australians with the Aboriginal people, the English, the French, the Japanese, the juntas of South America and Africa. Man's history is just an endless list of atrocities, and we're not through with it. We're living on a pile of corpses, but people keep saying man is good. You know the figures. The 350 richest men in the world own as much as the 2.3 billion poorest. The first one who lectures me about life, liberty, and all that crap, I should just shoot him. That's what he'd deserve. And what's the point of this? What's he doing here? Somewhat similar to the first one. He's just justifying what he does. He says we're no all different at the end of it. We're all killers. We've all been a part of it. And so even when it comes to something like murder, you could say, well, I'm not a murderer. I don't do any of the things that Dexter does. But you all are part of the cycle. We're all part of it. Part of all the atrocities of our own country and our own people and the whole history of where all of our stuff comes from. We're all a part of it on some level. We just like to pick out certain people and say they're the bad ones and ignore what we're a part of at the end of it. And so that's the killer. And so now, one more quote from Dexter. I just know there's something dark in me and I hide it. I certainly don't talk about it, but it's there always. This dark passenger, and when he's driving, I feel alive. Half sick with the thrill of complete wrongness. I don't fight him. I don't want to. He's all I've got. Nothing else could love me. Not even, especially not me. Or is that just a lie the dark passenger tells me? Because lately there are these moments when I feel connected to something else. Someone. It's like the mask is slipping and things, people who never mattered before are suddenly starting to matter. It scares the hell out of me. This is not the Bible. This is not some religious or Christian text. This is Dexter. It's from the actual show. What would you say to Dexter? What would you say to him? Wealth is worthless in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. In all honesty, how would you respond to Dexter? How do you respond to your friend that speaks the exact same way or is at least thinking the exact same thoughts? What do you say? It's going to be a complete downer if none of you have an answer to this. I'm just like you, and that makes it all better? Because we've all come to that conclusion right now that we're all just like Dexter. I'm guessing we're mostly depressed in this room right now. Is there anything more you can say?
Jesus died for everybody's sins. And even though we think we have it the worst, he took away that too. And that's the beauty of the gospel.
and the most beautiful thing you could ever say, right? I'm not going to try to summarize all of that. But at first thing we say is, thank you for being brutally honest about the situation. Thank you for being honest and recognizing what the real condition is. And now, the other thing we have to be honest with is that there's nothing we can do about it ourselves. There's nothing. Dexter, Walter White, all of them, they're hopeless cases. I won't tell you how they end, but they're not happy endings. The final seasons of these shows. In fact, all the final seasons are dark and depressing, and they're all just getting more and more depressing as you get closer to that final, as depressing as it gets episode. Because there's no hope in this world. Even when you come to terms with the fact of who you are as a human being, there's no hope. And so you have to look somewhere else for that hope. And you're not going to find that hope on any of these shows because the script writers don't know about it. And the actors don't know about it. And the producers don't know about it, or they don't want to know about it. And so this is the way that another Dexter, another Walter White deals with it. David, probably the one person in the Bible we go to first when we're talking about someone with deep, dark secrets. Adultery, murder, everything that goes along with that. And as a king, all of the secrets that the king that was described as the one closest to God's heart, who's supposed to be this pillar of moral excellence, and we see the darkness that's within him, this is how he responds to it all. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. Blot out my transgressions. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, you only, have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. So you are right in your verdict, and justified when you judge. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Yet you desired faithfulness even in the womb. You taught me wisdom in that secret place. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquity. Create in me a pure heart, O God. David recognizes that there is one person you're not going to be able to fool. There's one person you cannot hide who you are from, and that's God. And that's why the primary person you're sinning against, and that I sin against, and that we all sin against in our own lives, when no one else knows about it, the primary person that's the victim is God. Because you're his child, and he knows what his child is doing. And so there's only one response to it. God, you've got to do something about it. And there's tremendous hope that the gospel offers in this. Tremendous hope. You can be cleansed. You can be washed clean. And it's all because of what Christ has done for you. And it's a fact, too, right? A historical fact that you can't change. Nothing can change the fact that Christ has died for your sins and cleanses you and robes you in his righteousness. So where does that leave us in all of this? Our culture isn't really all that big on talking honestly about the human nature. But our art can't avoid it. If it's going to in any way realistically show what the human condition is like, then it will resonate with what Scripture teaches, with what God's truth is. And so that's what we find. But it only goes so far. And that's where you have the ability to do something with it. Because you know how the story can end. It doesn't have to end the way that it ends here, and it doesn't have to end the way that you picture your own life ending because you are just like Dexter or you are just like Walter White. There's a different ending, and you know how it can end. I guess I'm done. I don't really have anything. Yeah, that's it.